everybody, welcome. I'm Daniel G. Garza, and this is Put It Together Conversations. Welcome to another episode. I want to welcome all our friends on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, and Twitter. Thank you for joining us. Remember that you can be part of this conversation. Make sure you go into the video and ask any questions, make any comments, and be part of the show. If you're watching us on YouTube, will you do us a favor and scroll down, hit that subscribe button, hit that little notification bell, and you'll find out whenever we have new shows on the air. Here at Little Mexican Productions, we have shows all the week long, plus some of the TikTok videos that we do in the mornings. So make sure you follow us and check out our website for more information, times, and schedules and such. Remember, Putting Together Conversations is a show about you, about folks, where you come from, where you are now, and what the journey has been like. And the idea is to motivate and inspire other people to go after their dreams and goals. My guest today is, let me get her name up here. Here we go, Roberta Morris, and let me tell you a little bit about her. Roberta Morris, founder and creative director of Leave It to Berta, is an award-winning designer with 25 plus years of creative design and leadership experience. She's on a mission to help organizations to brand and promote their products in a consistent and thoughtful way. She finds the best branding happens when clients feel heard and involved in the process. Berta regularly gives back to the community by volunteering her design skills for good. She also enjoys writing about all things color and creative via her Martini Minute blog. When she's not designing something, she pursues other interests such as world travel, paint and collage, crochets, science, reading, writing, gardening, adventurous cuisine, artisanal coffees, karaoke, and her cat. Without much, let me go ahead and bring her onto the stage. Berta, hi, welcome to the show.
Hey, Daniel. Great to be here.
So good to see you. For those of you who follow the show, Berta and I met on Lunch Club, which is where I met several of the guests that have been here on the show. I recruit them while we're talking. I was like, hey, by the way, you're very interesting. Come on. But you do have it's not a line. Some of the people that I get to talk to are so interesting, and you were definitely one of them. How long have you been on Lunch Club?
A few months. I started towards the beginning of the year. I'm trying to remember when we spoke. March?
Probably.
Something like that. But I've been on a few months, and it was one of those things I've been networking like nobody's business over the course of COVID and the lockdown. It's like I've networked more the last 14 months than I think I ever have. And have met all sorts of interesting people from everywhere. And yeah, so Lunch Club was one of those things I heard about through one of my communities and decided to join. And I've met some really interesting folks on there.
Yeah, if you folks are not familiar with Lunch Club, I'll make sure to set the link on there so you can go and find it. The cool thing is you can find people within your industry, outside of your industry, and just the intense questions. I think that they schedule for 45 minutes, but I think you and I ended up talking for almost 2 hours, if I remember.
2.5 hours, I think. We had a lot to say. Plus, you were generous enough to do the reading for me.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, so for if you're on Lunch Club, you're watching this. If there's time, you might just get a reading from me. So
and it was right on too, which is kind of scary.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I like that feedback. So see, folks, I have an endorsement from Berta Morris. So
I know. He knows his cards.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And I think we talked about it when we talked. I was creating my own deck, and it's in the research part right now. So I'm putting it out to some people to look at and work with. So we might have to talk again and get that. Show you my cards.
Get that design, packaging.
Oh, see how this all happens? Well, see, folks,
this is how it's all cyclical. This is how it happens.
This is networking. This is organic networking, folks. Yeah. But it's good to see you. When you popped up on the show, when you came into the link, the first thing that I noticed, your hair. I just love your hair. Can I ask you before we get started, why blue?
I've done so many colors. I haven't seen my natural hair color in 20 years, probably at least. And also I'm in the stage of life where I need to sort of cover certain things. G-R-A-Y. And so, yeah, I've done so many colors, multicolors, bleached things. And so this time I just decided to do like a sort of a monocolor, which is the blue. And I had done it actually years and years ago, Blue. And so, yeah, I just got it done recently. And, even during lockdown, I was getting my hair done.
Nice. Well, there were ways to get around everything. I feel like if you were careful, because I got haircuts during the lockdown too.
Oh yeah, yeah.
My fathers were being very careful.
It was almost like the secret knock, like a speakeasy or something. It's like, ding, 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 ding. What's the code word?
Cornucopia.
No, it'd be more like hair dryer. I don't know.
Well, for everybody that knows that I do energy work, blue is a very healing color. It's both the color of, which makes sense, is the color of the throat chakra. So it's all about communication, but it's also a physical and healing color. So it's about transformation and new journeys. So there you go.
Yeah.
Well, let's get started. I want to know more about you. So Berta Morris, tell us how you put it together.
Oh, how did I put it? I'm still putting it together, quite frankly. But yeah, so how did I get started putting it together? So I grew up, I was always creative. I come from a creative family with a lot of, poets and writers and photographers and, painters. So I guess it's just in the genes. So I've always been creative. And even as a small child and even all throughout my schooling, I took art classes. I was even graphic designing all of my, my assignments for school. I was busy making packaging for all my, I'm not kidding. Like I was literally class assignments, packaging, design, copywriting, all this stuff. And of course it wasn't really that kind of assignment, but I would manage to bust some graphic design onto it. And in fact, when my grandmother passed away and we were going through the house, I found like all these little products and things I designed. I used to do a little zine.
Wow.
It was amazing, but I was always into that. And so I took art and music for, I don't know, at least 6 years in school, through middle school and high school, even elementary. And then when I got old enough to go to college, I was like, oh, what do I do with myself? It's like, I definitely want to do something creative, but I want to be able to pay the bills. So that's how I got into graphic design. It was like, okay, at least I can make money. Maybe not the most money, but I get paid for the work. So, but yeah, I got a BFA in Arkansas State. And then my next ambition was just to get the hell out of there. So I moved to Dallas and was there for 6 years. And then I went to Paris for 2.5 years. And then I came to San Francisco and I've been here almost 18 years.
Wow.
So, and it was like that thing of like, and in fact, when I first started my career, I started out in advertising and for about 10 years. And then I started kind of segueing, I guess you'd say, sort of into branding. And then I also work in publishing, which is two completely different things. But yeah, so I do publishing and then I do branding. And it's just been an interesting journey because, and in fact, when I first started my freelance hustle, I called myself the small town gal turned big city designer, because that's basically how I felt. I started out in a smaller town outside of Memphis, and then I just moved to the city as fast as I could, and I stayed. They'll probably take me out of here feet first, honestly speaking.
It's interesting. And I just remembered, yeah, we both lived in Dallas, and you moved to Dallas, I think the year after I moved out. So it was really interesting.
Yeah.
Because you and I seem to have a similar energy that when it comes to like projects, like when everybody's going up to 7, we're going to like 9 or 10. It's like, let's take it to that next level. Because you say you started when you were young, where did that energy come from? Where did that mentality come from?
It was just it's just who I am, and I think, like I said, because I have relatives, like, close relatives, who are artistic, writers and photographers and painters and all of this sort of thing. And I think even our family somehow related to Thomas Hart Benton. There's some cousin connection or something there. That it's just kind of innate. For me, it's been innate always. And in fact, when I was in advertising, I worked for this big agency, and I had a creative director at the time who's since passed away, sadly, but I'll never forget. His name was Matt Savage. And he told me one time, he's like, you know what, Roberta, you're always a fount of ideas. And it's like, I will never forget that.
That's pretty
cool. Always a fount of ideas. And it's true. It's just like, and it's not being to be a braggart or anything. It just comes really naturally. So I think one of the things that I struggle with is putting limits. Do you know what I mean? Because like you can exhaust yourself, like trying to take on too many projects, trying to take on too many, things, trying to take it to too many levels, showing too many options. And I tend to go above and beyond, and I probably need to kind of meter myself.
I know when your calendar looks like a book, like a sign, like all the, how can I say this? Your calendar is color coded. Yeah, my calendar is color coded, so it looks like a big bulletin board of design. But I get you. Like again, it's like when you see everybody going, "Okay, we're done," and you're like, we're not done. Let's go more. And
more. Let's show 10 options, and we could show 3 options.
Yeah, and then do you notice like things start overlapping onto other things? You're like, oh shoot, now I need to get this started. How do you handle the stress or the anxiety of getting everything done?
I haven't always been good at handling that, to be honest. I mean, that's the honest answer. So I had a lot of coaching, a lot of therapy, a lot of self-reflection. I had a near-death experience a few years ago, like whatever. Like I've gone through all these different things in my life, and I'm finally like, I'm going to be 50 this year, right? And Sagittarius.
Welcome to 50. We're waiting for you.
I know, 50. So, and I'm finally to the point in my life where I feel like I understand the balance, the need for balance, and I don't take things as seriously as I used to. But it has taken me this long to get to that point. And it's really true. It's like I've been burning the candle at both ends for a long time. And some of it was, of course, not by choice. When you work in advertising and you're a young art director, you don't have a choice. You are burning the candle at all the ends because your boss is screaming at you. But as you get older and you get more seasoned and you have a family or, whatever different priorities in your life, you have to start thinking in a different way. And it's kind of like they always say, work smarter, not harder. It's sort of that, but it's also knowing, okay, because of your expertise or because of your experience, you don't need to hammer away at this like somebody half your age, right? Per se, because, you can sort of shortcut the process and kind of, it's just different. And also you kind of get to the point in your life where you're like, man, do I want to retire at some point? Do I want to be able to have time to volunteer? Do I want to travel? And then you just can't. And so, and I would say the lockdown has helped with that because I finally had some time to like do yoga or to contemplate life or whatever that I didn't have before because I was running around too much.
Yeah, I get that. So we have a question on the board for you. Roberta, how do you manage the glass ceiling in such a male-dominated work environment as advertising and marketing?
I'm just a battle axe. Maybe people think I'm a bitch. I don't know, but no, it's funny. That's a really good question because when I was a younger designer, it's funny. Like I was probably one of the best producers, but I certainly wasn't the highest paid. And there were people, guys in my in the office that were getting paid a lot more than me. And then when I kind of figured that out, I just decided to go freelance. I just left and decided, you know what, screw this. Now, luckily, I started off my advertising in a woman-owned boutique firm. So that was kind of cool because I had a model of women in a powerful position who had credibility, and they had their glass ceiling experience and decided to go on their own. So I went on my own for a while and just kind of kept it going. And I think for me, it's about confidence and just not even channeling that. It's like if and it's also a balance of soft skills. It's like this weird, I'm walking a very fine tightrope where I have soft skills that I feel like are pretty strong, but I'm not anybody's fool. Like, you know what I mean? It's like soft skills plus being direct and professional plus talent plus just emanating, I'm not taking any shit from you. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, and I haven't had a lot of problems with it. And it's just because I think it's force of personality as part of it, because I do have a very strong personality. And some of it is I just don't even like let it come in. It's like, maybe you're trying to do the glass ceiling with me, but I'm just not going to acknowledge it or address it. I'm just going to plow ahead and just, I just force it. You know, I'm like, I'm going to force it in a professional way. I'm not, you know what I'm saying? Like, you don't want to get inappropriate with people, but yeah, you just make it happen. And I haven't probably felt it as much as other people. But yeah, and it, you know, but I think since I've gotten older, and especially being in the Bay Area and being kind of mid-career, I don't notice it as much, for sure. I think Dallas in that time frame was probably where I encountered it the most. And I'd outperform them. I mean, seriously, I'd outperform. And then at some point I just left. I did my own thing, and I earned more money.
It's like, now that you know that I'm better than you, I'm out of here. Like, just sit on that one for a little bit. Let me just remind everybody, you're watching Putting Together Conversations. My guest today is Roberta Morris, and we're talking about advertisement, breaking the glass ceiling, and discovering yourself. If you're watching us on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, or Twitter, please like this video and share it with your friends so others can join. Please, if you have a question, join the conversation, ask it, and I'll make sure to pull it up. It's interesting, something that you mentioned, because the word bitch, as far as when it comes to work, it's incredible that, like, even after all these years of women being strong in the workforce, there's still that double standard of, like, if I walked in with that type of energy, it'd be like, oh my God, he's so strong. But if a woman walks in with that energy, like, oh my God, look at him, he's just strong. But if a woman does the same thing, the concept still changes. And it's still, again, I said, like, it's 2021 and it's still there. You go to some workplaces and some people take that concept. What would you say to yourself in those moments when people use the term or put you in that label?
You know, it's funny. It's like I've gotten feedback, I think, for the most part, that people find me, again, it's this sort of triad. You know, people usually find me pretty approachable. I'm very professional, very direct. Direct is kind of the word. Instead of assertive, maybe, but really direct is more the word I would use to describe my style. And it's like, but I'm nice about it. I'm direct, I'm professional. And so I don't really get that energy as much. But if I ever do figure out that somebody doesn't like me in that way and they're kind of putting me in the bitch category, like, I just don't care. They can think I'm a bitch all they want, you know, but I'm not going to take it from them. It's just like, and especially, like, I've had even like vendors and people that have worked for me, and I'll just like, you're going to play that card? Well, how about I just fire you? You know, like, it's like that nice.
Yeah.
But also, I'm just going to be a dragon lady if I need to be, if I feel like you're pushing my buttons in a way and trying to put me in something, like, you're going to regret it.
Yeah. It's what they say in country music, leather and lace, just a little bit of everything. You know?
Exactly. And you know when to have the lace, you know when to do the leather. I mean, that's what I'm saying. It's like, I can be a very different personality if I feel like somebody, and I'm always fair. It's like always being fair with people. I think it's very important to be fair. But if somebody tries to take advantage or tries to label you inappropriately, you know, and tries to say something about you that's not true, then I think, you're within your right to put them in their place. And then they usually shut up.
Of course, not being female, but being Latino, I can understand that position because uh, people have sometimes asked me, like, how did you handle people being, like when I worked in corporate, people being discriminatory or racist? I'm like, I didn't pay attention to it.
Yeah.
I didn't fall into the game. I knew sometimes they were trying to belittle me or put me in my place. But I also worked in like special projects. Sometimes I was the special projects department, and I knew like, okay, you don't want me to work with you. That's fine. You do the project yourself. I have other things to do.
Yeah,
and then they'd be like, I don't know how to do it. I'm like, I know. That's why you have me here.
That's why you need me here. So like, knock it off.
Yeah. So if you don't like Mexican music playing in my office, don't come in my office. That's simple.
Yeah, absolutely.
So here's another comment. Your energy is so wonderful and engaging, even through this medium. How do you find sanctuary and refill your energy banks on a daily basis?
Oh, that's a really great question, because I have been a person who depletes themselves. I think partially being a woman and maybe a Southern woman, I've always felt this need to kind of caretake other people and to cater to other people and to sort of be a people pleaser, which seems totally antithetical to my direct personality. But it was a duality within myself. And I felt like for a really long time that self-care it was like you're being selfish or you're wasting time or you're not being productive or something like this. And I finally, again, just through a lot of hard knocks and experience and time, finally got to the point where like it's like a light switch goes off in your brain sometimes, and I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna book myself in for a spa day. You know what, I'm gonna go get acupuncture once a week. I'm gonna play with, hang out with the cats. I'm gonna not work a bunch of nights and weekends anymore. I'm gonna put a stop to that. If I want to relax with a glass of wine, I'm gonna relax with a glass of wine. And so, yeah, it's like I've just gotten in its boundaries, because a lot of what was kind of depleting me was other people's energy, like other people needing things from me all the time. And so I finally kind of started shutting it down. It's like, I'm not answering emails at all hours of the day and night. I'm not taking people's calls that stress me out, like at some inappropriate time or whatever. Like, and it's kind of like they always say, it's like you have to recharge your batteries, because if you don't, you can't help anybody else if you don't help yourself. So, and I think, it also helps, having cats around and, whatever. It's just like, and having the support of good friends and stuff. And so it's like I always kind of know where to go to relax, go for a walk in the park or something like that. But it took a long time for me to give myself permission. It really did. And I think a lot of it also is scheduling it. Like if you're doing acupuncture once a week, or you're getting your nails done once a week or whatever, that's a built-in way that you can sort of decompress and do something for yourself.
Yeah.
And it's equally as important. And also the other thing that I think people do too much is just work solid for hours and hours and hours and hours and don't take a break. And the reality is, it's like you can take a break, come back to it later, and you get more done.
Yeah. But I think we're about the same age, and my dad was like that. Like, what do you mean you can take a nap? Like, we got work to do.
I know, right?
Like, what do you mean? Like, you can rest when we're done, and you're like, if you let me just rest for a minute, I can finish. But and then that mentality, because I remember being like 20 and having 3 jobs. I worked in the morning at an office, worked in the afternoon at the mall, and worked a weekend job. And my mom would tell me, it's like, you're going to kill yourself. And I was thinking, but y'all do the same thing. Like, why? Like, yeah. But they could, I figured, I imagined that at that time she could see the stress in me to live up to my parents' expectations of work. And yeah, sometimes it's still in my head. Sometimes I wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning, I'm on my phone, and it's 10 o'clock at night, and I'm still on my laptop. And it's hard to get that, especially when you have your own business.
It's really hard, and it's like, yeah, I have my consulting work that I do. I also work in publishing, and it's just like, there are times when you're so tempted to just, I gotta check that email, see if anybody's, it's just like, how about you don't check your email? I'm just gonna, and I even set my sort of notifications thing, like 9 in the morning to 9 at night. Outside, like from 9 at night to 9 in the morning, I turn my notifications off, which is kind of a long period of time, but I do that. And then the other thing I do is I keep my phone on silent all the time.
I've noticed, like when I'm at Christian's house, the notifications go up at 9 and they come back at 9 in the morning, but it's on silent all the time. So there's that I don't hear it going off, but then there's also that behind my head going, have you checked your phone? Have you checked your phone? Have you checked your phone? And then here at home, the only difference is here at home, I have the ringer on so I can hear it going off. And when I hear the email notification, it's everything that I can do to like not run to my laptop to see what. Yeah. Who is it? Am I missing out on a job? What are they calling about? Yeah.
I know. It's just, yeah. And especially, I think that's the other thing that's really difficult is how do you balance opportunities? How do you balance communication? Because you don't want to, it's kind of that fear of missing out that everybody talks about. And but then when I think about it, think about how many people take forever to get back to you, or like you email them and then like 2 days later, or 5 days later. So, I mean, there's kind of the opposite extreme. So it's like trying to be somewhere like a reasonable. It's like if somebody, like I had somebody text me the other day at like 4 a.m. and I'm like, yeah, like, no, for like work stuff is like, yeah, I'm not going to deal with that right now.
Yeah. And I've realized that the longer we're in business, we have guests from overseas. So the time changes are odd. And sometimes there is that 11 o'clock at night and they're like in their, whatever they're doing. And they're like, can we talk right now? And I'm like I'm already in bed, but I'm like, it's either this or wake up at 7 o'clock in the morning or like 6 o'clock in the morning. So I'm like, okay, fine. Like, let's get on a video. And of course the hair is everywhere. And like, okay, fine, let's chat for a minute. But,
oh God, yeah.
But when you run your own business, people sometimes say, just don't. And they're like, but if like it's my business, like I need to invest something.
No, I know, but there's still like a reasonable turnaround. It's like I also find that sometimes if you're in any kind of work situation where they expect you to be on 24/7, they probably just don't respect you very much.
Yeah. We've made, I say we because it's me and the voices in my head. We've made some adjustments over the years, but I am captive to my social media. But I'll learn eventually. Maybe this conversation will teach me a couple of things.
The social medias, don't even get me started. Like I got rid of almost all my accounts. And I decided to do the thing. I finally heard permission from, I think it was some webinars or something, about just focusing on your hero platforms. And so for me, it's really LinkedIn. Some Facebook, some Instagram, but really it's LinkedIn. And then, of course, I have my Medium blog, Martini Minute. But other than that, it's like I try to keep my social media to sort of just those few things, because otherwise I can't function.
Yeah, and we're a social media company, so it's gone from like there's a couple of pages that are for entertainment, that it's just for me for fun stuff, to get in touch. But almost everything is work, but everything is linked together. So I put out one blast and it just goes everywhere. So
that's good.
We've learned to like simplify the situation. Like for instance, right now, let me remind everybody, you're watching Put It Together Conversations. My guest today is Roberta Morris, and we're talking about finding the time, making the time, and learning how to say no. Thank you for watching us on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, and Twitter. Remember, you can be part of the conversation. If you have any questions or comments, make sure you enter the page and make your questions and be part of the conversation. I'm going to bring it up because you brought it up. You're turning 50. How does that feel?
Same as 40 and 30. I mean, maybe when I crouch down, it's like a little bit like, Oh my God, I'm not as flexible as I used to be. No, but other than that, and of course more wrinkles, the reality of gray hair.
Yeah.
I was kind of premature gray too, a little bit. So, but yeah, it's just like, so I just kind of, as from an energy and a mental perspective, it's like I basically feel the same, honestly. I mean, I feel like maybe I'm a little bit more wise or something. Like maybe there's that. But other than that, I mean, it's not, and like I said, crouching down and then getting back up, you're like, But yeah, and so like I'm looking forward, like one of the things I try to do is have a fun, like celebrate those 0 birthdays with something really splashy. So when I turned 40, I went to Vegas, designed t-shirts, invited people over. Everybody was wearing the same like sort of team unit, t-shirt. Lots of fun. Actually, I should do that again this time. So this time we're going to Miami, and it's going to be sort of a Golden Girls sort of Miami thing, So I got to figure out, I guess, which of the Golden Girls I'm going to dress up as, and get the t-shirts, design the t-shirts. But yeah, like when I had the Vegas t-shirts, I had it was like an old motel sign design, and I had like my birthday, the marquee and the kind of the Sputnik kind of, it was fun. And so for Miami, I'll have to do something with palm trees and I don't know, whatever, but design a t-shirt for the occasion.
Yeah, I turned 50 in December, and when we were in the middle of the pandemic, so I did a Zoom party, and just really didn't specifically invite anybody. Just like, hey, here's the link. If you want to jump in, jump in. And I did make it all about me. I was like, hey, everybody here on Zoom, you need to tell something about how we met or some fun story about me. And we talked, and at the end, I did a little card reading for everybody who stayed till the end. And I did something that made me happy, brought a piece of cake. The only time I cried is when my sister jumped in on Zoom. She doesn't normally do it, but she jumped in towards the end, and that was when the waterworks just came out, because my mom had passed away in August, so it was really fresh. And I was like, oh, but just like you, I don't feel like other than the number changing, I don't feel like I changed a whole lot.
No, I mean, and I would say, like, if I changed from 40 to 50, it would be probably from 30 to 40 to 50. It's probably for the better. I definitely feel more confident in myself, which, I mean, believe me, like when I was in my teens and 20s, oh my God, like I was, yeah. It's just, talk about imposter syndrome. But yeah, like as I've gotten older, I've gotten much more reflective and much more confident in myself. And people come to me for advice all the time, of course, and mentoring. And I don't mind doing it. That's a way I can give back, is to mentor people. I mentor a lot of young professionals, especially women. And so I'm always happy to give my time. And of course, because I've been through it, I give those advices. And you can already tell, you're just like, yeah, just believe me, just fast forward through all the BS and just hear what I'm saying, because if you, approach things this way, or if you tell yourself that thing, I'm trying to shortcut this for you. But yeah, it's definitely been an interesting ride, and it's like, and hopefully I'm only to the halfway point, if I'm lucky. We'll be having this conversation at 100, centenarian. Like, what are you going to do for your 100th birthday?
I'll be like, back on the show after 50 years, Berta Morris. And where have you been, Berta?
Hey, if you survive a decade, I believe that you should do something splashy. So like 60, I don't know. I'll have to figure out, do we go to Bangkok? Do we go to, I don't know, whatever, Costa Rica or something? Like, what are we, 70, 80, 90? Hopefully I'll still be traveling at 90.
Well, I did see a video just recently about a woman who turned 100, and she had never been on a motorcycle. So they got her one of the little sidecars to get her on. And I was just so impressed because she could hardly get into the little sidecar. They had to help her. And I was like, but hey, if you still got the energy to do it, by all means. Now, before I forget, I do want to talk about your webpage. Leave it to Berta. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Leave it to Berta. So that's my consulting business. And as some of you may sort of guess, Leave It to Berta is a play on Leave It to Beaver, which is an old sitcom, which I think it aired like in the 50s, like sort of the late 50s, early 60s. I can't remember how many seasons it was, but anyway, about the June Cleaver housewife and the two sons and the dad that worked. It was a little bit like Americana, like white picket fence, But one day this is when I lived in Dallas, and a friend of mine, Gary, I think we must have been in my apartment or something. We were just like talking, and I was thinking about leaving advertising and doing my own thing and all this stuff. And we were brainstorming names for a business. And his name was Gary Williams. And so he was always putting together these little portfolio kits, and he would call them Williams samplers instead of what's the Whitman samplers. I'm talking about those yellow boxes of candy that look like they have the cross stitch on.
Yeah.
So he would do a Williams sampler. So we were all into that play on the words kind of stuff. And he's like, hey, I got an idea. Like, you could do like these little TVs and like, because I think I may have even had a TV with a little clicky thing, and you look at it and it's got a reel of like cheesy old images in it and stuff, And he's like, hey, you can do like a TV thing, and you could do like some art in some of your work in there, and and you could call it Leave It to Berta, because it's like Leave It to Beaver, Leave It to Berta. And like, so he actually came up with the name play. And I was like, yeah, what the hell, So the first promo and the first website I ever did was this TV screen with me and, with the little face and everything. And I called it, I said, don't touch that dial. That was like my line. Don't touch that dial. Leave it to Berta. And so it was kind of that play on like vintage and 50s and TV, but I did it more through the realm of almost, I don't say like the Mary Tyler Moore Show, but sort of like Berta, instead of being a housewife, Berta is a young professional who's small town to big city designer, and all those ensuing shenanigans that happen, when she's making her way in the topsy-turvy world of graphic design. Like, that's how it all started. Fresh face and all this stuff. And so over time, I finally realized it's like, I need to kind of sort of evolve this whole thing. And now that I'm a more seasoned professional, maybe fresh face isn't the right thing. It's a little too beginner-y. And so I decided if I was going to do any kind of tech work or anything like that, I decided to kind of pivot, still vintage, but more towards a sort of a space, sort of a sci-fi kind of approach, still of the era, but it's still TV, but it's more like a space show than like the Mary Tyler Moore Show or whatever.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And so so it's this weird, it's kind of a weird concept, but to me, the Leave It to Beaver thing, while it rings a bell, that's not the essence of it, right? So because Leave It to Berta is a call to action, basically, that functions on its own, then it can be TV, and it can still be a sort of a sitcom or whatever. But in this case, what I've done with it is made it more of a space adventure. So yeah, check it out, leaveittoberta.com. You see me come up, I'm like in my little space suit. It's really heavy on the space kitschy, really bad puns,
So I'm going to ask you a little bit of, because we talked a little bit about marketing and design and coming up with ideas. Mm-hmm. How has the world of like advertisement, how is the way we promote things to people changed since you've been in the business? Other than, some of the obvious stuff, but.
Well, yeah, obviously social media and stuff. But one of the things we were talking about before we went live is sort of the memorableness of it, or to me, like the way we used to do advertising when I started out, it was just more sort of catchy and memorable, and you had slogans and you had like theme songs or thing, and it had jingles. And to me, there was just like, I still remember some of that stuff, but I can't tell you what I saw yesterday. it's just in and out. It's just like a scroll. It's just a scroll, and it just goes right by your face, like, for like a split second, and it's gone. And so to me, I think, I mean, this is just my opinion, but I think it's a lot less memorable. It's all about just like being repetitive, maybe flashing it as many times as you can, but it's not the same as a jingle that you still remember 20 years later, right? Yeah. So I think that's one of the big ways that it's changed. And yeah, people just have a less of an attention span. And so, and also maybe more customized in some ways too, because, there's a big effort to try to put the right consumers with the right promotions, like try to put, like you're very careful about who you show your ads to and things. And so in that way, it's kind of cool because, like if you're searching for something, it's a much more tailored experience. But yeah, it's just really different.
Yeah, because we were talking about theme songs and such, and there are certain, being from Dallas, the theme song to Dallas, da 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 da. Yeah. And then the Dukes of Hazzard. I remember Friday nights, Dukes of Hazzard and Dallas, like back to back. And on Saturday nights, it was the Love Boat and Fantasy Island, the plane. And as soon as you heard that, it's like, it's Fantasy Island time.
But it was its own brand, right? I mean, that's what I'm saying. It's like, so when you're doing branding work and you're trying to promote something, it's really important that it's as memorable as possible and consistent, because I think that hasn't really changed. If something's really memorable and it's consistent, then people will remember it. But if it switches too much, like if it's all over the place, the memory is not there. So like, old jingles, like I was telling you, the best part of waking up is Folgers in your cup. I mean, I still remember that, right? And I didn't even drink Folgers back then, and I don't drink it now because it's crap. But yeah, it's just a totally different thing. And also, I think it's all mixed in. Instead of advertising sort of being advertising, it's much more mixed in with everything else. Add what your cousin had for dinner, your sister's vacation, some workmate's new puppy, another ad. I mean, it's just all mixed together, right?
Yeah, I still have memories of coming home after school, and like Oscar Mayer was a big thing in the house. We always had bologna and hot dogs, so it was, and watching the Banana Splits on TV, and having that theme song in my head, singing the theme song to Oscar Mayer Wieners, and like everything had, like, there was this, without even knowing that it infiltrated my head, it was this, like Coca-Cola songs for Christmas, like it was everything, like had its, and as a kid I was like, it's Banana Splits and I've got to make an Oscar Mayer Wiener.
Absolutely, and I think it really sticks. That's what I'm saying. It's like those things were very sticky. And they advertised those toys, right, on those cartoon shows, right? So it was very targeted. It was still targeted, but it was very sticky. And I think it's harder to be sticky now because there's just so much noise in the space. But, so there was the stickiness. But it was also nostalgia. Like one of the reasons that I think with the Leave It to Berta, that I sort of keep that around. I started that in 98, right? So one of the reasons I sort of keep it around is, or keep that as my my moniker, I guess you'd say, is because it's sticky and it's nostalgic. And that's really, I mean, I hate to say it, but it's people love them some nostalgia. I mean, have you noticed how the same things keep coming back in the style?
Yeah. We did an episode of Christian and Daniel's show a couple of weeks ago where we were talking about foods that took us back to our youth. And it was by far one of the more popular episodes we had because everybody that was watching had these foods that took them back to their childhood. And as soon as somebody mentioned it on the threads, we were posting it and everybody was like, oh yeah, we used to do that. I mean, macaroni and cheese.
Like macaroni and cheese, Kool-Aid. We used to make those Kool-Aid packets. So disgusting, but that was, oh my God. And the ice cream truck, the little jingle, the ice cream truck. And I would always get that sort of, they called it maybe the bomb or something. It was like red, white, and blue, and it was kind of this frozen, like juice pop or whatever it was.
Yeah,
Those things.
Those are classic things. Well, this is why when I started launching the shows for Little Mexican Friends, every show has its own theme song in the beginning. These are songs that were, I'm very grateful to my friends, the Kalama brothers and Patrick Gutman. They each wrote a special song for each show because I wanted the people to, when they heard it, they knew that's the show. And every show has its colors, so people say, and then Little Mexican Productions. There is no other Little Mexican Productions Inc. out there. So when people hear Little Mexican Productions, they know. But it's things that we learned. I think it's things that we learned as a kid without even knowing that we learned it. I mean, obviously you worked in it, but thank you to all of you who did all this for us because it's in my head. It's there.
Yeah, well, absolutely. It's a different approach. But if it's sticky and if it's memorable, and if it's nostalgic, like that's sort of the secret sauce, I think.
Yep. For everybody watching, this is Put It Together Conversations. I'm your host, Daniel G. Garza. My guest today is Berta Morris from Leave It to Berta. Make sure you go check out her website. We're talking about nostalgia, things that stick in your head. And this is the part of the show where I ask my guests to share some words of wisdom. And although you've been sharing lots of information, Berta, what words of wisdom do you have for the audience watching?
That's a tough one. I would say, I don't know if I have like a quotable quote or whatever, but I would say always be learning. One of the mistakes that I think I see other designers in particular make, or even people as they age and get older and stuff, is that they sort of stop learning at some point. And it's like it's kind of like a hinge or something that starts to freeze up and rest. It'll get to the point where you can't open the door anymore. And it's like, I think it's extremely important to always keep learning, always keep up, as best as you can with the trends. And I'm not saying you have to be on the cutting edge of every little thing, but always be mindful of that, because the moment that you disengage and start kind of coasting around and not really stretching yourself, I think that's when at least as a designer, you're not as effective.
Gotcha.
In my opinion, be learning.
And I wanna ask you to share something else. What is something that females in the industry can do to stay in, I'm not gonna say be like you, because obviously they want to find their own entity, but to be in that mode where you were, where like, hey, you can be assertive without being.
So one of the keys to that is to be in community. So I think there's a lot of really cool communities out there right now that are some of them are female. I just recently joined Female Founder Collective. Also, Ladies Get Paid is another one, and there are many others like Ladies, Women in Tech and Girls in Tech, and so there's all these different groups out there that are particular to helping women succeed and being a community of women. And so one of the things that you talk about is the challenges of being a woman in the industry, and how do you ask, and the thing that I find about, and there's too many to name, but I find, and then the publishing one I belong to is called Bay Area Women in Publishing. And so like you have people who are willing to mentor, people will, like women will post questions that are that are opening themselves up. Like you're really seeing them being kind of raw and vulnerable and putting that out, and the flood of other women, or people who identify as women coming in and like lifting her up and giving support. It's pretty phenomenal. And these are strangers a lot of times, And so I think joining as a professional woman, if you can join women-centric communities, I think that really helps, especially if you're a founder, an entrepreneur, there's ones for that and everything. And then I also think at some point you have to learn not to, I don't want to say not to take it personally, but kind of, because a lot of this stuff isn't really personal, but you can, if you're too sensitive and you wear your heart on your sleeve, you can really, you know what I mean? It's like you can take it to heart. And I think you have to sort of learn in the professional world just not to take it to heart. It's just business, and just not, you know what I mean? Separate your personal self and your, from the work, and realize that the work is just not who you are inside per se. It's something that's a service you're providing, or something, a job that you're doing. But it's all about, it's just like not internalizing it too much, if that makes sense. Yeah, but I do think that those communities help with that, because you can just tell the community, hey, I'm really struggling with XYZ, and they'll jump in and help. You know what I'm saying?
I think it's very similar to like people in the Latino community. You want to help each other build up, because it's very easy. It's very easy for the world to pit you against each other. So when they're trying to do that, whether it be men, non-Latinos, or any other group, when they're trying to pit you against each other, you really have to take a step back and go, this is my chance to support you. Let me support you, and we can be stronger. And I don't know how you feel about this, but I feel like when you're very confident about yourself and you know your potential without being overly cocky, but you're like, hey, like when you talked in the beginning about the card readings, like, I know I do good card readings, so I don't need to compete with anybody, because I'm in my lane. I know what I do, and I stay with that. Does that make sense? Like, if
absolutely. Yeah, if you're confident in what you do and what you can deliver, then there may be some people out there that try to be naysayers or try to undermine you in some kind of a way, but you know better. You're like, I know about you.
Totally.
You know what I mean? And it's like, I'm not, that's that thing about not taking any, it's just like, I'm confident enough. I have had enough positive feedback from other people that I know that you're just in your own category. And I just tend to not engage with those people. But I do think that if you're in a safe place where you can say, like, I'm really struggling with this thing, and other people have also struggled with it, like, then you realize freaking everybody's going through this, and then it's a total thing. Well, it's not just me, man, like 10 other people have the exact same thing going on. And it's okay to say it out loud. But I also think that the last 14 months or whatever has taught a lot of people that. I mean, it's like, it's been a very humbling experience, and I'm hopeful. I don't know how long it'll last. I'm hopeful that there'll be, like, for example, like seeing people's working in their bedroom, or the kid, runs and asks mommy for something or whatever. Like, I'm hopeful that we'll all give each other a little more slack, because we're all human beings, and it's just like, come on.
I tell people, I said, I made one of the walls in my apartment, my studio, but you don't see that right over here is my couch. And you just kind of do what you have to do. But I also, one of the things I talked about learning something from you, I think one of the things that I'm learning from listening to you is just to be consistent, just to set your path and be consistent. Because you talk about the lockdown. I've had friends that are like, will call me after I do a live stream or a show. It's like, if you did this, you'd make more money right now. I'm like, I'm not worried about making more money right now. I want to make sure that I'm consistent and I'm making money all the way down the road, not just now. I don't want to be a one-trick pony. I want to make sure that I have consistency, and that's definitely something that I'm learning from listening to you. So I really much appreciate that. Thank you.
Oh yeah, consistency. It's like location, but for branding and creative efforts.
Anything that I didn't ask that you want to talk about in the last minutes before we leave?
I don't know.
We talked about a lot. It was good.
Talk about a lot.
Before we say goodbye, let me just, as talking about consistency, let me remind everybody that you can watch us here. You're gonna with 3 shows a week. We have on Wednesdays the Christian and Daniel show at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. The Card Devos every Fridays at 5 p.m. And on Saturdays we have 2 shows for Printed Conversations. This is a special edition, 2 o'clock. So if you're watching live, you're like, wait a minute, it's not 9 and 5. It's a special episode, so make sure you check us every week. If you are not following us on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, and Twitter, why not? Make sure you follow us and hit those notification buttons to make sure that you get notified whenever a new episode comes on. If you're on YouTube, do us a favor, scroll down there, hit that subscribe button, and hit that little bell. You'll be notified whenever a new show comes out. And remember, if you're not following me on TikTok, go look for the Card Devo on TikTok every morning, Monday to Friday, about 9 o'clock in the morning. Join me for Breakfast with the Comadres, where we do some live reading so you can join in the conversation. Also, if you haven't bought my book, why not? Go check it out, Grumpy Bunny and the Colors Game. You can find any one of these 5 establishments. It's written by me, illustrated by Jennifer and Vivian Gatch. That's mother and daughter. It's a book about meditation, dedicated to kids, but it's good for everybody. So if you want to find more about your chakras and how to meditate and have a book for your kids and grandchildren to read, go check it out. Find out that book. Roberta, thank you so much for being here. I so appreciate you. Thank you.
I appreciate you too, Daniel. I appreciate the invitation, and it's been a pleasure, as always.
I'm going to put you in the green room for a minute. Don't go anywhere. I'll be right back.
All right.
For everybody, again, this is Put It Together Conversations. I'm your host, Daniel G. Garza. We're here every Saturday, so make sure you set your alarm. Come join us for a couple of episodes. Join the conversation. Make sure if you're watching on any of the 4 Facebook pages, share this with your friends and family. If you're on LinkedIn, make sure you share this as well. And again, friends on YouTube, make sure you subscribe. And Twitter, would you just retweet this so other people can watch it? Would you like to be a guest on the show? Send me a message on any of the platforms you're watching on and let me know how you put it together. And we'll bring you on the show. If you have somebody you know that has an incredible put it together story, we want to hear about it. We want to share it. And make sure that you, again, follow us and join us every Wednesday, Fridays, and Saturdays for more episodes. My guest today was Roberta Morris. Make sure you go check her out again on her website. Leave it to Berta. Go check her out, check out her stories, and follow her. For now, I want to thank all of you for watching. Thank you for joining us. Again, we'll see you here again next week. See you later, guys. Bye.